Well, hello there. Glad you could join me, Joseph Craven, here tonight on SSD Game Night. We hope that it is okay for you to watch. I don't know. We're going to be going over Ogre Battle 64, Person of Lordly Caliber, a game that I first played about 20 years ago. Now, if anyone is experiencing significant amounts of lag or anything, let me know. I'll see if I can adjust any of the settings here, because I've been trying to fix some of the stuff that's been going on that's been getting in the way of having a smooth stream, and hopefully we are past all of that, but we shall see. This is one of my favorite games of all time, and I'm going to go ahead and explain why. Well, first and foremost, I might as well just go ahead and show you. Hey, look, there it is. There's the game. There's the gray-haired old man, which isn't creepy at all. That some dude just wants you to wander into his room. Ogre Battle 64 is a game that I first played almost 20 years ago, and because it came out in 1999, and I played it probably around 99 or 2000. And this is, I don't know what inspired me to go back and play this again not long ago. I played it 19 years ago. I purchased it. My character's name is Randy Savage, as it should be. I purchased it again sometime when I was in college, working a summer camp job, oddly enough, with M. Scotter, who's in the live chat. And I kind of just sped through it. I got it originally, 19 years ago or so, because I really liked the character designs. I saw pictures of it, and I was very intrigued by this. I ended up buying the Prima strategy guide for it. I think before I bought the game, before I had the game, I had the strategy guide, which probably says a lot about how strange I was when I was younger. So there you go. And I wanted to play it again at some point in time, and not too long ago I was going through some of the old Nintendo 64 games and decided I'd try it again. And I realized while doing a little bit of research that I pretty much had played the game entirely wrong 20 years ago. I had really messed it up, and I decided I needed to do a live stream explaining how I had played it so poorly some 20-something years ago. First of all, anyone in the live chat, has anyone ever played this game before? I think that's really, I want to know if anyone else has played this, because if so, you're probably fully aware of the Chaos Frame. I was not aware of the Chaos Frame when I first played it. I sped through the game as a child, and yeah, the only guide that I had, as David Cott has pointed out, was the Prima strategy guide. And as you're probably used to with the Prima strategy guides, those things can sometimes be really accurate, but most of the time they miss a lot of details. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's just not present in the Prima strategy guides. So, which is, pretty lame, because when I was a kid, that's all I had. We didn't really, I didn't really just log into my parents' AOL account and, look up all the secrets of the video games back then like I can do now. So while researching this, some of the side characters, special characters you can get, I realized that little kid me was completely unaware of an entire hidden morality system in the game. And now that, and I think one of the reasons why I'm going back and playing some of the favorites of all time is, tomorrow I turn 30, so I think I'm grappling with the fact that I'm, no looking back, I'm what people would consider an adult now, and it depresses me. So I'm trying to relive my childhood best I can. So let me explain to you first how this game works. The Ogre Battle games are highly detailed, primarily tactical games. And I mean highly detailed. So there's a lot of planning and strategy that goes into even preparing to get into a battle. You'll see right here that the way it is broken up, you have these units of characters. Unit number 1, unit number 2, unit number 3. And then you have characters in there. There's our main character, Randy Savage. He's teamed up with somebody named Francois, Eva, Kane, Noah. Down here, you got a unit leader. Each unit has to have a leader. This guy's name is Dietrich. He's got soldiers. Those are just generic guys. But you got to have them because they eventually turn into actual characters such as Dyson and Admiral Akbar. Nice. This guy's name is Akbar. Let's just go ahead and do him a favor, actually. How do you abbreviate Admiral? Is that... Is it ADM? Is that right? Somebody can correct me. But this guy needs to now be named Admiral Akbar. Oops. Yeah, David, I'm ancient. I'm going to guess Admiral Akbar. That's how you do that. So, battle is... battle consists of basically setting up your characters and your units in particular formations to maximize how effective they are in combat. You don't directly control combat. You tell units where to go. You tell units, what to do. But once they get into combat, basically everyone has a certain amount of skill, a certain set of skills, and a certain amount of turns, attacks that they can do per round of combat. And then after everyone's rounds are up, whoever did the most damage wins that round. So, already fairly strange, I think. A different sort of setup. So, you'll notice right here, let's just say you're eyeballing this and you've never played this game before. This guy, he's a knight, so it looks like he should be up here in the front row of combat, right? This is the front row, this is the middle row, and this is the back row. Well, these fighters are back here in the back row, which is kind of strange if you think about dudes with swords. They probably should not be back there. That's probably something more set up, for like these Amazons, which are your ranged attackers. So what we're going to want to do is adjust the formation. So let's put these Amazons back here, and you'll notice if you look at Francois's name up here, it says shoot ×2. If we put her back up here, it drops down to 1. That means per every round of combat, she only attacks 1 time, but in the back row, she attacks twice. So you want your archers in the back row. Kane and Noah, you notice slash ×2, you move them back and it becomes 1. So you want fighters in the front row, archers in the back. Now your main character, Randy Savage, depending on what he's got equipped, his name in the game is actually Magnus. That's the canon name. But canon names here on Super Squad D are either Mayor McCheese or Randy Savage. Those are the rules. If we gave him a Blessed Sword, you'd see that in the back row, he suddenly switches to healing instead of slashing. So let's put him as a healing unit so that we can get a little bit more, repair done back there. Yeah, can't change that. This guy... Alright, we don't have any more Blessed Swords. We can give Dietrich some better armor, though. And down here, once again, we've got a witch and 2 archers, and then these little soldiers. These soldiers are weak. These soldiers are doo-doo. These soldiers exist to eventually grow into actual characters. Archers go in the back. A witch also is going to need to be in the back. Now you'll notice she doesn't have any real protection. It's a couple of ranged people and then these weak little soldiers. So what we really probably should do is switch one of these ranged people with a unit that doesn't have a ranged person. Once again, you're doing all this prep and strategy work beforehand. So it's not like a Final Fantasy RPG where you have a random encounter and then you go through and have to... We'll keep Admiral Akbar in here. Where after a random encounter, you go through and you choose all these individual, attacks and everything. No, it's not quite like that. Let's put all them over here so that these guys in the front row can be a shield for everyone in the back. So that's what we're working with. So we've set all of this up. We've got these units here now. Okay. Quick RPG you know, let's see, quick RPG refresher course, you'll see an alignment meter kind of right next to you. Got your strength, dexterity, agility, all that, and you see the alignment meter there. Now, I mean, if you're familiar with any sort of RPG, then you're going to be familiar with lawful versus chaotic as your go-to alignment, right? Lawful versus chaotic is, I mean, it's common in any sort of, all right, lawful versus chaotic is common in any sort of RPG. It's, you know, any Dungeons and Dragons character building, whatever, is going to be lawful, chaotic. You understand that concept probably. In this game, it's no different. Now, what's interesting about this is that if you're a lawful group of characters, you tend to rub off on the other characters. So that if you have a unit that has a whole bunch of lawful characters, everyone kind of starts in the middle, but, you know, witches have to be more on the chaotic side. If you have a group that's mostly witches and other chaotic units, then everyone starts becoming more chaotic. You have a group that's mostly like clerics that heal, and other lawful units, they especially start dragging people up. So units as a whole tend to gravitate lawful or chaotic. Hardly anyone really stays neutral. This is important because I understood that from like a, you know, putting your class together sort of way. I understood that when I was younger. What I didn't understand is that there is an underlying morality meter that you cannot detect that is called the chaos frame. All right. The chaos frame is this strange, unique, almost entirely undetectable morality meter that basically runs in the background and tells you whether or not you're making good or bad choices. Not uncommon for anyone who's playing an RPG. You know, the notable thing here is that this one is not really dependent on dialogue options. Unless you have like a Game Shark and can look into the coding of the game, it's hard. You can't really directly track where you are on the chaos frame. Somewhere around mission 13 or 14, you fight an archer named Lytle. And I remember when I was younger playing, I fought against Lytle, and at the end of the battle, Lytle is like, hey, let's talk for a minute. And basically gives you a warning about like your army having a reputation. And then she leaves. And I always thought it was very strange that they put this character in there who existed solely to say, hey, I think your army has a bit of a reputation, and then disappear. But that's what Lytle was. As it turns out, what had happened was Lytle will join your army if you err more towards the lawful end of the chaos frame morality meter that you can't keep track of actively. And if you're on the lower end, she leaves. I didn't know this, so she left, and I had no idea why. Turns out it's because I had been playing the game super evil and never knew it. Whoops. Bit of freezing on the stream. Yeah, I was curious about whether or not that was happening. I'm trying to see if the internet at my house for some reason has been quite up and down today. So we'll see if this freezing and lagging and everything on the stream continues, or if things kind of pull themselves together a little bit. Oh yeah, so in games such as Skyrim, Fallout, in these sort of games, you know, you have dialogue choices that affect whether you're doing something good or evil, lawful or chaotic. And that's not really the case here because there's very little dialogue. Here's the question: if there's a little bit of this lag and freezing, is it enough to warrant trying a different streaming service, like if we all moved over to Twitch, or is this watchable enough? That's the main question. Answer me in the live chat before we continue. The way that you get either lawful or chaotic, good or evil choices in here actually comes down to how you interact with these strongholds or towns on the battlefield. So this interaction with Lytle around mission 1314 is actually your first indication of where you sit on the chaos frame, if you're more lawful, if you're more chaotic. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to attempt to stream here on Twitch, and it already seems to be working a little bit better. So that's good. Comment if everything looks okay. I'm trying to keep an eye on things right now. And it's looking a little bit better. Alright. Much better so far from Big Ol' Boomer. I always prefer the Big Ol' Boomer name more than the Chad Bro Chill name. Personally. That's just personal preference. Yeah, I'm looking at my my stats here on the streaming software, and it seems like it is dropping significantly less frames. So that's good. Maybe when all is said and done, we'll, you know, try this again on YouTube next time with these current settings that I have and see if it works a little bit better. I think that's actually supposed to be the Twitch chat above my head, but the interns must have broken it. And it's not showing up correctly. So, that's pretty lame. Oh, there it is, now that I've talked bad about the interns. So we're here playing Ogre Battle 64, Person of Lordly Caliber, which I think is one of the best subtitles you can have to a video game ever. And so basically, we're talking about the morality system that lies underneath Ogre Battle 64. I'm not paying the interns, Scott. They're interns. They're unpaid interns. That's the whole point of an internship, I think. Is to not be paid for anything. Maybe that's not the point, but that's how we're doing it. So what we've got here with Ogre Battle 64, I don't know how much was actually explained or was comprehensible on the other broadcast. But with this game, we have your classic chaotic versus lawful alignment amongst characters. Shouldn't the producer be disciplining this Unreal? The producer is not here tonight. The producer only gets brought in for streams in which we have everyone together. And clearly Tyler's not here. So, what a jerk. So this is an important moment here. Alright, this character, Diomedes Rangu, I guess is how you pronounce it, challenges you to take it outside. Now this is important because I was mentioning in my first attempt at this YouTube video that didn't appear to want to work, that that in this game, while you have chaotic and lawful alignments amongst your characters and the units, there is a completely untraceable morality meter called the chaos frame. You can keep track of the chaos frame if you have like a Game Shark. and you dig into like the chaos frame coding or something like that. But if you don't have that, like if you're just playing through the game, if you don't realize that the chaos frame is a thing, you're not really keeping that much track of what it is that you're doing that makes it either a good or an evil, a lawful or chaotic decision. What this ends up doing as well is that as you go, there's special characters that can be recruited to your army if you are more lawful or more chaotic. I think as a kid, since I had no understanding of how any of this worked, I missed out on all the extra characters that, that I could have had, you know, something like when I played this like 19 years ago. So, this is my opportunity now to try to make amends for all this, I guess. And so this is an important moment here because we're about to see one of the few times that you actually have a decision to make in dialogue. If you play something like Skyrim or the Fallout games, then you will see, you'll see dialogue choices. Like it's pretty clear, somebody, challenges you to a fight or something like this, and you go for it. It's probably a little bit more of a chaotic decision to make. Somebody offers you a reward, and you take it and then murder them. That's a pretty chaotic decision to make. In this game, you don't have as much dialogue. You don't choose a whole lot of what you're saying. All your decisions really come on the battlefield. So therefore, your chaotic and lawful, your good or evil decisions happen on the battlefield as well. So this is an important moment because this is one of the few times that you actually have a choice. You can either say, all right, or no, I'll pass. If you're aiming for a more lawful ending, I guess, then you'll probably want to act more lawful here. So I'll go ahead and say, no, I'll pass. One of the few times that this, and from what I've read, what I've researched, this will positively affect the chaos frame. What are you saying? You're so superior that you're mocking me because I'm from the South? Being from the South, this is entirely how we react when people mock us because we're from the South. This is Hugo the Tactician. One of the greatest names. Why do you get so angry? Don't be so rash. The rest of your life isn't set in stone, right? So, around mission 13 or 14, and I was mentioning this on my first streaming attempt, around mission 13 or 14, and let me know, everyone, if it's still going okay. According to my software here, it still seems to be going alright. I bet it's probably streaming in the worst quality video imaginable, but it's still alive, and that means more than anything else at this point. We're not janitors, we're soldiers. So around mission 13 or 14, you encounter a boss fight against an archer named Lytle. And Lytle has a special character skin, and she has an entire last name. It's Lytle something. Alright, we're about to get into an actual battle, so I can show you how this thing works. Awesome. I'm very happy, first of all, that it's going well, but secondly, that you guys actually followed me over to Twitch and are still hanging with me. Because this game is fascinating to me. It's one of my favorites of all time. And to actually learn more about it now, that I'm 30 or about to be 30, as opposed to when I was first playing it when I was like 11 or 12 years old. And then when I tried to play it, when I bought it on a whim, one time when Scott and I were working at summer camp, camp ended and I used my camp money to buy this off of eBay. So this mission 13-14 boss fight against Lytle is really the first real moment in the game in which you are introduced to the impact of whether you've made good or evil, lawful or chaotic choices throughout the game up until that point. So when I was a kid, I played it, and we get to the end, and Lytle, lectures me about my army having a bit of a reputation or something, and then just leaves. And this was always confusing to me. I was always very, very confused as to why this character would have a name, would have a special skin, kind of a special skill set, all this sort of stuff, and then would completely leave and never be mentioned again in the game? Well, as it turns out, it's because if you're doing more lawful stuff, if you're higher up on the chaos frame, then she actually joins your army. And at that point in time, I didn't know what I was doing, so I was pretty low on the chaos frame, and she had no interest in joining my army. So it just kind of goes like that. It's actually much easier in this game to accidentally make a lot of really evil decisions than anything else. That's because this is how you have your good and evil decisions. First of all, here's what the battlefields look like. They're these, township-looking areas. And it is dim. It's kind of a dim game. I don't know. I guess the sun's supposed to come up and make it brighter. So you notice there are these towns around here. There's the town of Buchanan. It gives you its population and its morale. Our goal is to go down here and take over the Theodricus mine. So there you go. Alright. Now, let's look at our main character, Randy Savage's unit. I was mentioning earlier, units, the entire battle construct here depends upon what unit is in what position in this formation, or what character is in what position in this formation of the unit. So, Randy Savage has a blessed sword, and he's in the back, which means that the ability he does is he heals twice per round of combat. Archers will shoot twice per round of combat. They're in the back. If we moved them into the middle or in the front row, they would not do that anymore. Fighters up here attack / twice per round of combat. If we move them to the middle, they'd only do it once. If we move them to the back, they'd only do it once. So, we're going to get Randy Savage to go over here to this town. Well, first, we're going to check one thing that I forgot. No. Here we go. Let's look at Randy Savage's alignment. It's up there to the left of his name. It's a neutral alignment, right? Eva, neutral alignment. Francois, neutral alignment. Neutral. Okay, so we got a bunch of people with neutral alignments. This is important because when you wander into a town, your unit will either inform you that they have liberated or they have captured the town. And it has entirely to do with that morale. As it turns out in this game, the chaos frame and your good and bad choices come down to whether or not you've liberated towns. I used to think that this was just a completely random occurrence. That like, hey, what do you know? You wandered into a town and it just said either, oh, you liberated or you captured it, and it didn't mean anything. But it turns out it means everything. Basically, this town morale is it lines up with the chaotic and lawful alignments of your characters. So what you want to do is you want to wander into a town with a unit that has the same alignment as the town's morale. Then you will liberate it. And that is a good versus evil decision. So if you're trying to play the game with a high or good chaos frame rating, you want to liberate as many towns as possible, because that is going to affect the outcome of the game. It's going to affect how many special characters or certain kinds of special characters want to come and join your army. It's going to actually give you the absolute good ending to the game. And for the most part, other than a few moments like if Lytle joins you or some of these other special characters join you, you have no way of knowing where you sit on the chaos frame until you beat the game, which I think is a crazy thing. I remember distinctly getting a very disappointing ending when I was a kid and going, oh, well, that's a weird ending to the game, because I didn't understand at that point in time there could be multiple endings. Sorry, I've been talking a lot and not actually doing anything. Because Randy Savage has a neutral alignment, we want him to go over here and try to capture the city of Mollusk, or whatever it's called. Molsuk. We're going to go ahead and bring out all of our other guys. Dietrich. We're going to dispatch Kitty. We'll change her name later on. Diomedes, Rangu. Vega, I don't know who Vega is, but she's with us now. That's good. And then someone named Willie. Willie's here too. I didn't have these guys earlier. That's good. This is a friendly town. It has the little blue emblem. So we don't need to go do anything with this town. We need to look at this town right here, which is the town of Bordeaux. You notice it has a higher morale, which means we need to try to liberate it with a character that has a higher alignment than just neutral. So let's see what Dietrich's is like. See, Dietrich is neutral, kind of leaning towards more lawful. Neutral, Admiral Akbar is neutral, soldier. Alright, so Dietrich might be our guy. Let's see what Diomedes is up to. See, Diomedes is leaning more towards chaotic, so we don't want to deal with this with him because he would capture the city. And the last thing we want to do is capture it. So I'm willing to bet Dietrich here is our best bet. So we'll tell him to go down here to Bordeaux. And then they start marching. And this is where the strategy part comes into play. I'm going to check the alignments of our other characters. Kitty, being a witch, is going to gravitate towards chaos a little bit more so. So she's not the one that we want to send to any high morale cities. This city's a little bit lower. So I think we should send Diomedes down here because he would have the lower rating. So the units that you have that have more clear and obvious alignments are the ones you want to use to liberate cities. And the units that you have that don't, you want to use to defend your headquarters, or you want to use it to go in and back up these other units to kind of be the cleaners and wipe out the units that kind of drift around once you've defeated them in combat. You guys still with me? Because this game gets really complex. Oh, good. I found some old clothing. This is useful. This game gets pretty crazy detailed, which is pretty fascinating, I think. All right, this is what combat looks like. You'll notice that Randy Savage is about to run into this wizard here. You're going to have one round of combat between Randy Savage and this enemy named Darner. And when we get into battle... Oh, we got a cinema scene first. The Southern Division, they're here already. It's a pretty good story, but we're not really going to be focusing on the story in these streams. We're going to be focusing more on trying to play the game with a high chaos frame rating. All right. Get. I tell you what, more than anything, Darner needs to see a speech therapist, it seems like. Okay. So he's got some units, and he has his own formation. So you'll notice that our guys we have 2 archers in the back row, Randy Savage in the back row, 2 fighters in the front row. He's got some sort of 2-headed wolf thing. He's got a knight in the middle, and he's got himself in the back. He's a wizard. He's supposed to be in the back. The wolf is a fighter. He's supposed to be in the front. That knight really should be in the front in order to attack twice. That knight is only going to get 1 attack. Our best bet is to attack the leader in this situation. If we attack the leader and we kill the leader, then the unit wanders aimlessly. It does not act on its own to try to take over any towns or try to take over any of our guys. So our fighters get 1 of their 2 attacks. He heals. No one's been injured yet, but he goes ahead and heals. Our archers go, because we're apparently faster. This like Cerberus thing attacks. He shoots us with lightning. Attack number 2. Look at that. We actually killed him. That doesn't always happen in battle. You have a lot of battles where you don't actually kill anybody. Now that the leader's dead, unless we wanted to change it to a different attack setting, they would continue just kind of attacking a certain way. Okay, that Cerberus gets 3 attacks. Interesting. So there you go. So we won that because we did more damage. That's it. That's battle. All that was automated, and it's determined entirely by how we set things up to begin with. If we hadn't messed with that formation at all, if the archers were in the middle row, they only would have attacked once each, as opposed to twice. That sort of thing. You also notice that Mulsuk, it's a terrible town name, has been liberated. This is a good action. Every liberation counts for 0.5, like a half a point bump up in the chaos frame. Every capture is 2 points down. So it's much easier to play this game and accidentally be evil and not realize it. The evil ending in this game, you help lead a revolution. That's the entire plot of the game. I'm not giving anything away. You join the revolution like 3 missions in. So you help lead a revolution, and in the evil ending, you're shunned by the guy that you helped lead the revolution. And I remember that. I was like, man, this dude was a jerk to me. I helped him, you know, lead this entire revolt. Well, no, as it turns out, throughout the entire game, I had secretly been a completely heartless monster, and he didn't want to have anything to do with me once things were done, because I had been just that terrible to everyone. So this is the bulk of the gameplay itself of Ogre Battle. 64, person of lordly caliber. In combat, you want to just kind of send your characters on the map. See, on one that I did more damage, but nobody actually died, so I didn't get any real experience points. Their unit will be knocked backwards and try to get back home. And Bordeaux's been liberated. How nice. And Diomedes Rangu here will continue walking along and probably have more combat to do. Any of this making sense so far? We're going to get our cleaner character here, our cleanup character, to go and try to eliminate Darner just to earn more experience points. The strategy of this, I thought, was always just in unit creation and moving about the battlefield. As it turns out, the real strategy in this game is liberating as opposed to capturing. Because let's make sense, make sense of it all. If you're trying to lead a revolution, you really want to liberate cities before you ever capture the city. Diomedes is an interesting character in that he can attack twice from the back row. I think as he goes on in the game, he can actually get a third attack if you put him up in the front row. So that leader is dead. So that leader has nowhere to go now. We're actually going to get, once we chase these enemies away, we're going to get Randy Savage to wander down here and try to take care of this leaderless unit. Shotter? Is his name Shotter? Not Shooter. Shotter. Okay. Dietrich is done here. There's no reason for him to continue hanging out in this town. Alright. I assume his name is Diomedes and not Diomedes. But it's hard to tell. Guys on the far right cannot attack on the far left unless all the enemies on the far right have been killed. That's why that one fighter... That's why that one fighter... could not attack the witch like he's supposed to because she's the leader. He can only attack that griffin in the back. Man, this witch, she's crafty. She's dodging some shots. So that was still a win. Once again, the witch is alive and well. And now has to fight an enemy named Jank. My goodness, these are some of the greatest enemy names and town names I've ever seen. Once again, that one fighter is not going to be able to reach all the way over. Woo! That was a critical hit. Nicely done. I'm not controlling any of this at this point. Just waiting to see what we do to Jank. It's a nice win. I don't think I've noticed any alignment changes. Sometimes battle alignments will change in battle, which is interesting. All right, will he liberate it? Yes. So there we go. So that's 3 cities liberated in this fight, as opposed to captured, which means 1.5 points up on the chaos frame, which is a good thing, which is the way we want it to go. All right. Let's try to wipe this battle out. and then we'll see what we do in the future. So my goal with this streaming series is pretty simple. Relive my childhood, because I'm rapidly approaching the grave, but also to get the better ending in the game than I got before. Scott, this is the only combat mode. You were bad. I got a story to tell you in a minute there, David. Scott, this is the only combat mode. This is not really an RPG. This is more of a strategy, or tactical strategy RPG. So it's not really like Final Fantasy Tactics. However, the same people that made Final Fantasy Tactics made Tactics Ogre, which is an Ogre Battle game that plays out the exact same way as Final Fantasy Tactics. So if you're into that sort of thing, I recommend looking into it. Uh-oh. This guy's getting really close to Bordeaux. I hope he doesn't accidentally capture it, because that's going to count against us in the Chaos frame. Oh, wait, there's something here. Oh, that's handy. An Altar Resurrection. Final Fantasy Tactics is my favorite Final Fantasy game. So I also have Tactics Ogre on the PS Vita, and I'm trying to play through it right now. But it is incredibly difficult, because it is a tactical RPG where you actually control all the action. But it is just as detailed as all of the Ogre Battle games are supposed to be. Really, really minute, complicated details. And this one, all the details are in messing with your character's alignment so they can change class to whatever class is unique. Because some classes have to be very lawful, some classes have to be very chaotic. You'll notice that Archer actually had her alignment go down a little bit for some reason. I'm not exactly clear on why that happened. And a lot of times when you eliminate an entire unit, you get an item. We're going to get our knight to try to knock out that chick. So, this is not as much of a hands-on... oh yeah, and your units have fatigue, and after a little while they have to rest if they've been marching for too long. So my purpose in this entire series is to try to actually play and get a high enough chaos frame to get like the best good ending instead of the mediocre ending, or like what I got when I was younger, the really bad ending. And to recruit as many special characters as I can through that chaos frame setup. How nice. When I was a sophomore in college, one of the guys that I lived down the hall from had a massive original Nintendo collection. Massive. And he had the original Nintendo running through some giant JBL speakers that if you turned it on would just rattle the entire dorm, really, because our dorm was pretty shoddy. And I decided I really wanted to buy off of eBay and play Bad Dudes, because it just seemed to be the most ridiculous game to me, and I never played it before. So that's what I did. I purchased Bad Dudes, and I played it a lot in my friend's dorm room, until one fateful day, I was a bad enough dude to rescue the president. And I actually beat Bad Dudes, and I was so amped up about beating Bad Dudes, all I could do was throw my fists up in the air and yell for all of the dorm to hear me. I am so bad right now. That was it. That was the best I could do. So, Bad Dudes forever holds a special place in my heart. David Codd, thank you for bringing up Bad Dudes right now. I think it's about time to try to finish this battle out. I'm trying to get extra experience. If you get... The more experience, the more battles you get, those little hamburger head soldiers there will turn into actual characters that you can then, you know, use, which is important. I think I lost that one. Yep, definitely lost that battle. I grow tired of this conflict. So, of course, the point here is I'm trying to free the people of the Theodoricus mine, whatever that is. You know, I actually tried to name the character Mayor McCheese as opposed to Randy Savage in this game, and it did not quite fit without dropping some vowels. So I decided to just go with Randy Savage because it was a perfect fit. But we'll call those guys the McDoubles. Those are McTriples, because there's 3 of them. If they take enough damage, they drop down and they become McDoubles. Or even singles, which is the saddest thing. So they're leaderless. They're just going to wander. We're going to get Randy Savage to eliminate the leader of this. This is the boss down here because he is standing stabilo. Stabilo is standing where we want to be. So Stabilo has to die. Let's see what he has to say. You've come this far, but you won't get any further. I will defeat you at all costs. This guy is a stud. You were controlling the beasts? Why are you doing this? What are you doing? If you take enough of a whopping. I love it. Won't do either is good if I tell you. What are you going to do? You haven't the slightest idea what we must endure. You want to know why we do this? Freedom. Yes, for freedom. That's it. Nothing else. Now prepare. Alright, so this is a pretty simple boss fight because this is the very first battle in the game. I'm going to try to advance enough so by the next time I stream you actually have a more entertaining battle to see. And one that requires a lot more strategy. Including a lot more character class changes. Yeah! So because this is the boss fight, even if we do more damage, we will not actually win unless we eliminate the leader there, the boss. Now, of course, he's wide open, so my archer can eliminate him here. And what do you know? The battle's now over. Yay! And with that, the entire first battle, which is a little prologue battle, has ended. You always get some money. You get some more hamburger helpers. You get some treasure at the end of battles. So a good Ogre Battle 64 battle often takes a solid hour to complete. Because you have to strategically move around to... we gotta head back, Randy Savage. We gotta head back, Kate. I should name my character Kate. Just for this one joke. Because not only do you have to eliminate the enemy units, but you also have to then now, you know, go through and try to liberate towns properly as opposed to capturing them. And avoid enemies taking over towns themselves. It's a very complicated game when you really get down to it. So, Stabilo is just dying laughing up here. So this is, for many of you, this is your first and only look at Ogre Battle 64, Person of Lordly Caliber. Let me know what you think of it. I'm going to continue streaming this in my attempts to play the game in a lawful manner and liberate the country as opposed to just capturing everything, which I did by accident in the past. And Randy Savage, wait. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you'd be interested in continuing to watch this. I love a good strategy game. Warcraft 2 was one of the first games I ever really got into back in '95. And just loved it. Fell in love with strategy at that point in time. And love Final Fantasy Tactics, as I mentioned, because it's much more, you know, strategic based. You have to move around the battlefield, all that sort of stuff. And so strategy games have always been very, very near and dear to my heart, as have RPGs. So the fact that you have, anytime you have a good strategic RPG, I'm going to be fully on board with it. And I'm really glad to be living now in 2018, where I don't have to rely solely on a Prima strategy guide to make it through. The general storyline here is that you are a former friend of Prince Yumil, who they're talking about here, is being kidnapped by some revolutionaries. It's in a kingdom in which the working class people are heavily abused and really want to lead a revolt. Not only that, there also is a giant empire called the Lotus Empire, Lodis. And they're in all of the Ogre Battle games. The Ogre Battle games happen all in kind of in the same empirical reign area. In the course of the games, the Lotus Empire, you're kind of trying to avoid getting on their bad side, I guess, because they're the tough guys, or you're trying to maybe take them down because they're possibly a corrupt empire, that sort of thing. That's the general plot here. These videos won't really be about the storyline of Ogre Battle 64. This isn't like a Let's Play storyline type thing. This is more of a let's try to actually play the game correctly, I guess, like we were supposed to. This is going to wrap up my first video. I wish that I had more time. I was going to try to do the first couple, or at least maybe even the whole prologue, but at least the first couple of fights in here. Well, you know what? Before we get fully out of it, let's look at the organized screen. Because I don't know how well the organized screen would actually translate it over when we were trying to stream on YouTube and everything was going wrong. This is where you can come in and change classes and all that sort of stuff. So let's look at like this Amazon back here. We only have a few classes available to us, a Valkyrie and a Witch so far. Amazon is just your basic female class. Because this is not 2018, so women have specific classes that they have to be, apparently. Lame. Okay, so the Valkyrie is a melee class, and you have to level up enough to have strength, vitality, and intelligence enough to become one of those. A witch requires more dexterity, mentality, I guess that is, and intelligence. I don't know what the difference is between those two. So, little Jianghua here cannot become a witch or a Valkyrie quite yet. Admiral Akbar cannot quite become a knight because he does not have enough vitality or strength yet. A beast tamer, you'll notice the alignment changes. The knight is the more lawful of the melee units that dudes can become, and the beast tamer right off the bat is the more chaotic that dudes can become. There's also a barbarian that's more chaotic than that and a little bit more powerful melee unit. So in order to, like, Diomedes is the guy who did have a little bit more chaotic alignment. As you can tell right now, his alignment's more neutral. So what we really want to do if we want to keep him chaotic are two things. We want to surround him with chaotic units because they will influence him to stay chaotic, so that anytime we need to liberate a town with a low morale, he's the guy to use. But not only that, we also should train him in between battles. Because if you are more powerful than the enemies you're fighting, your alignment will drop. If you are less powerful, if you're weaker than the enemies you're fighting, your alignment will go up. It's kind of a underdog or bully mentality. If you're an underdog, then you become more lawful. But if you're a bully and you're just beating enemies senseless, you become more chaotic. When I played, I overtrained all my units. They were all much higher levels than all the enemies I was fighting against. So my alignment, without realizing it, was as chaotic as possible. And I think that's just how I like to live my life. So the bulk of Ogre Battle 64 is won and lost in your understanding of how to handle the unit organization screen, changing classes, changing formations, so on and so forth. Because if I wanted to completely change up the look of Randy Savage's unit, right now it's a pretty nice balanced unit in that it's got 2 melee, 2 ranged, and then a healer in Randy Savage himself. But if he is a great melee unit, if I put him up here on the front lines, can take a decent amount of damage, can dish out a decent amount of damage, but now there's no healing involved because he has the sword, a blessed sword, that allows him to heal if he's in the back row. We put him in the front row, it's all offensive. So if I wanted them to be more offensive than defensive or balanced, because it's pretty balanced right now, you know, I'd put him up here. if I want to make it a more defensive setup in general, then I probably would change eventually one of these Amazon archers here to something like a witch who does negative status effect spells, or even a cleric that can heal even more. And then we just sit back here and we heal all the time and never deal any damage. Lose every battle, but never actually take any damage. Something like that. So the better you can get at understanding this screen, the organized screen, then the more successful you'll be in Ogre Battle 64. I just noticed that these two, you can have 5 units, 5 characters in a unit. They only have 3, so I need to do something about that. And they have 2, but that's a large character, so you can only add 2 more. So I need to add some of these little hamburger helpers back here and add some more back here. Probably give her one of the fighters from Diomedes' unit. Drake, Lloyd, or Norse. So you got either the rapper Drake, you got somebody's accountant, I guess, and you got Chuck Norris. We're going to give her Chuck Norris, give her a little bit more of an edge. Here's one thing as well. When a soldier has enough battles to, you know, like level up, then, and become an actual character, they will become the gender of whoever is the leader of the unit. So, depending on how you feel about genders in general, you can have opinions about that. But this game was made, you know, like 20 years ago. So, what am I trying to do? So I don't really know how much they cared about being politically correct. Yikes. See, that's going to help. Oh. And then we'll add a soldier back here. In the early stages of the game, you pretty much always want somebody. Like, we'll go ahead and we'll probably take one of these Amazon archers back here and move them down here to this guy's unit. Because you want to have it pretty balanced, but you pretty much want everyone to have at least one soldier so that there's more chance of getting more official characters in the game. So that's another change I'm going to do before I end it all for the night. So that's going to wrap this up. This is one of my favorite games. I hope to, next time I continue playing it, I will stream again, and I'm going to try it again on YouTube just because it reaches a broader audience. And hopefully these settings will actually work for YouTube and not just crap out on me all the time. That's going to do it for me. Thank you for joining. I hope you enjoyed it. This is Ogre Battle 64, person of lordly caliber, and I'll see you next time. I'm Joseph Craven. Happy my birthday to all of you. Go celebrate. Do something nice. Buy a friend lunch or something, because it's my day and I told you to. Okay, bye.